Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Ritual. My name is Amy Harvey and today is a very special day because you will be listening to this, I assume most of you, on Halloween. So happy Halloween to everyone listening on the 31st of October. If you listen to this later, well then that's your own fault. That's really not my problem. But I hope that you have a beautiful Halloween, and I wanted to make a very special Halloween episode. And I know there is one person in particular who I knew had to do it with me because we share a deep love for all things spooky, pumpkin spice, Halloween vibes. And that is my guest for today. She owns a amazing store called Romy and Wild. She has her own podcast called Wild Podcast. And she is a neighbor to me country-wise because she's over in New Zealand. So as an Australian, I have to say, don't judge her. You know, we love our New Zealand friends. But I'm very excited to have Amber Harris with me today. We have been friends on Instagram for a few years now, I'd say.
Yeah.
So it's nice to actually speak kind of face to face in a way. But Amber, thank you so much for being on here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a world global, context, we are definitely neighbors.
We're neighbors.
So yeah, I love it.
How are you going? How is life over there? And whereabouts in New Zealand are you?
So in New Zealand, I'm from the North Island, and I'm from a little beach town called Mount Maunganui. So I'm a little probably a 2-minute walk to the ocean, which I know you would love.
Yeah.
And my hometown is famous for surfing and things like that. But today it's not like that. Like if I was to open these curtains here, it's gloomy, it's cold, it's raining. I'm pretty sure there's hail out there. So
the Halloween vibes are happening today.
Yeah, spooky Halloween weather is happening. Yeah.
One thing that I love about you is that, and this is like something that social media does, is that you can find people who are literally like in a very similar position as you. Like both of us have our own small business, both magical, both have kids, we both have podcasts, we get the same stuff. And sometimes you just need people who you can have a vent to, or if you watch their stories and they're annoyed or upset about something and you can be like, I totally get it. And I love that about you. I love that if I'm venting about something on social media, you're one of the first people to be like, I get it. And I feel for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, half the time I watch your stories, I'm like, is this not a reflection? Is this not a mirror of how my morning went today? Is this not the same thing?
No
so
shit.
I have one daughter, she's 3, and I swear, half the time I watch your stories, I'm like, did this not just happen in my house this morning as well?
3-year-olds are wild.
Wild.
Not necessarily in a good way, in a more mentally unstable way.
Yes. I feel like often, when you read these articles and it's like, are you in a toxic relationship? I'm like,
yes,
my 3-year-old is doing this to me at the moment,
because
1
the thing
minute
is, 2-year-olds don't get it. They can't communicate. And they're there's still this innocence about you, where 3-year-olds, you go, you fucking know. All right. I know. And I know you know what you're doing as well.
I know. And I feel like this morning before I took my daughter to daycare, she was kind of channeling like a cat, when a cat's been told not to do something, they just watch you and they glare and they just flick things off the shelf as they go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She gave me this glare and I'm like, wow, this is wild. But I mean, hence Romy and Wild. Romy is her name. So
I love
Say no
that.
more. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, now first question I like to ask people, because I'm very like interested in people's habits and routines, because I feel like often you kind of see a similarity with people and what they like to do to achieve things for the day. But do you have a morning ritual or something that you like to do every single day? And it can be like mundane, magical, or maybe a mix of the two. But do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all very dependent again on a 3-year-old, but
Yeah.
I definitely grew up in like a very magical sort of
Yes.
witchy spiritual home. So I sort of carry on a lot of the traditions that I guess my parents and my grandparents did.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'll do when I get up in the morning is I'll light what's called like the spirit candle. And I guess it's just a way to, it's just always a white candle. There's one right here. Actually, I haven't lit it right now, but I have them everywhere. My house has candles everywhere. I'll get up in the morning and the first thing I'll do is I will light the spirit candle. And it's just like a thank you, like a gratitude for the spirits in the house, all of our ancestors past and things like that. Light the spirit candle, and then I'm putting the jug on, because if I can get 5 minutes before anybody wakes up or anything like that, where I can actually have a fucking hot cup of tea,
It's gold.
then
It's
I'm doing
liquid
that. So
gold.
it's just lighting the candle and putting the jug on before I'm bombarded with like bluey or something, you know what I mean?
Totally.
So yeah, it's very simple for me. I have to keep it simple, because otherwise it probably wouldn't happen. So
Yeah.
light a candle, put the jug on.
Do you know, speaking of Bluey, did you see that America have made their own version of Bluey?
I just feel
It's about a
like, how's
rat.
that going to work?
It's
You
not going to
know?
work. It's not, and it
No,
literally looks the same as Bluey. It's
no.
about rats or something stupid,
It,
and
oh,
everyone already
yeah,
hates it. And I'm like, you can't do that. Like, you just can't
no.
copy Bluey because you just don't understand the humor or like the culture or anything about it. And the
Yeah,
reason why it's so good is because it's an Aussie thing, you know?
yeah,
It made
for
me
sure.
so mad when I saw that. I'm like,
Oh,
back off. You
yeah.
have everything else.
Yes, and as a Kiwi who's like, I've lived in Australia on and off as well, we know things like in certain episodes they have a reference to like a shop or something, and we're like, oh, we know about that.
Yeah,
But I feel like even America, they have to they censor a lot of their episodes of Bluey anyway, like the
I
one with the
know.
dad doing the fart jokes and
I
stuff. And I'm like,
know.
what are
They're
they
too
gonna put in
sensitive.
there?
You don't get it. Go away.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's so
Okay.
weird.
Now, one question I'm very excited to hear about actually, because you have a very unique background, I'd say, because a
Yeah.
lot of the people I have interviewed, when it comes to like where they began, not a lot of them have been born into magic. And so
Okay.
I'm really excited to hear, what was your journey like into becoming a witch and magical, because it was just around you always, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So my family are, well, there's some twists and turns in here actually that I'll
I'm
get into
excited.
later, which kind
Yes.
of talks about where my journey goes. But
Yeah.
my family is like full Scottish and full Swedish, that we
Cool
knew of.
combo.
Yeah, so cool combo. So we grew up with on great grandparents and then grandparents and then my parents, both sides, um, with a lot of Scottish folk magic in the house
Mm,
and things like Scottish mythology, myths and legends about the land, the fairies,
love it.
the elves, all that kind of stuff. And then on the Swedish side, we grew up with a lot of stories and I guess appreciation for again, land spirits, the water spirits, all that kind of stuff. So this has always been something that's just been in my household, like as for as
Totally.
long as I can remember. um we've had stories told to us by our grandparents, great grandparents, things like that, about like what the fae do, and you
Yeah.
better not do this because the fae will act this way. Or I remember a funny story when I was a kid and I went to a sleepover at a friend's house. I must have been about maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And I remember something happened with me and her where we got into something in her house that we shouldn't have. I think it was like hair dye packets or something in the bathroom, like
Yeah.
not good. And straight away she just denied, like her parents came and just denied everything. And I was like, standing there going, it was the brownie. And these parents just looked at me dead in the eye and they were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the brownie.
Don't you know?
Yeah, doesn't everybody know? Like, doesn't every household have a brownie? And it took me a long time to figure out that, you know, the stories I was told about a house brownie, which is very Scottish.
Yeah.
Every household in Scotland has a brownie, which is like part of the fae, you know, like a little goblin gremlin type thing that gets into mischief, and you just
Like Dobby.
blame whatever happens on the brownie.
Yeah.
Right, exactly the same. And so I was just like, well, we'll just blame the brownie. And the parents were like, yeah, I don't know. So I mean, I had just naturally, you know, grown up with this kind of stuff. Again, Samhain, like growing up with things with Samhain. So you had certain food that you would always cook on the night of Samhain, whether we were living in the southern hemisphere or not, we would still have it, you know, the 31st. And you know, you make soul cakes and you gift those to the dead. You set up a little table for your passed over ancestors to eat with you. So if people came over to my house for a sleepover, they were like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
But I had always seen like my mum use like different herbs in jars and like pop it under our pillows for nightmares and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely been just a massive part of my life growing up, both Scottish folk magic, I guess, and the Nordic practices as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's always been around. I've never really known any different. Yeah. But my journey now is actually quite different. So that all kind of started when I did my DNA like ancestry test thing about 13 years ago now. And growing up, like I had always been very connected to the Scottish folk practices we have in our household and all the stories and stuff that came from our family, and again the Swedish side. But I'd always had this really big obsession with the Caribbean and like learning about the Black civil rights movement in America and like what happened to people over there. And I actually did a speech on it in an intermediate, which is over here like 12 years old.
Yep.
And my teacher was kind of like, what the fuck, like this is pretty out the gate, you know, like a young girl doing a speech about like Martin Luther King and all this kind of stuff, the slave trade.
Weirdo.
Like, it went really into it. Yeah, like
chill out.
You know, we just wanted you to talk about surfing or something. And so I was like, I just have this deep connection for that. That's so strange. And of course, you always grow up thinking you are something, you know, unless you were to do an ancestry test, you wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the skeletons come out the closet. So I had always believed that we and our family had a little bit of like native New Zealand, like Maori here, Maori, because I'm really brown, really tanned. And the only reason I have blonde hair is because I'm going so grey. So I'm just, you know, putting the foils in. But otherwise my hair is black, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, for a Scottish, Swedish person, that's, you know, okay, a little bit out the gate. But we were sort of like, we all did our ancestry tests together, and my results came back with like an alarming thing in there, like, okay, this is really strange. And then so of course I made my mum and dad do it to see like where's this coming from. And so I am like a third of Caribbean blood. And we realized that when we did our family tree, that this name kept popping up. And unless you would have known the history of this person and this name, you would have just assumed that would have been like maybe a white person from England. But what happened back in those days, and it's like, I love history, I'll get into it forever, but what happened in those days is the slaves that were taken from Africa to the Caribbean to work, and the southern states of America as well, were given just English white names. So they just were given whole new identities, right? So unless you did an ancestry test, you would just assume that person in your family tree was from England or Scotland or something. And so my great aunt and my great grandmother were both Black from what is now like living in Cuba. And their names were Amy Jones and Laura Jones. And it's like, you would never know that. And
the most
so
white names, I say, as a white person called Amy.
I know. I know.
That is
great
crazy.
Name, by the way. Great name.
Thank you.
But so it came back that I'm a third I'm a third Caribbean, fourth generation from Africa. And I'm like, this
Wow.
is bizarre. Is this the connection that I've always had? And so, of course, my career and travel background is pretty extensive. And I went over there and I met my family. And I was able to live with them, stay with them.
Where were they?
And then so they're in Havana in Cuba now.
How cool.
Yeah, so cool. But they are originally from the island of Haiti. And then I guess if you go back, they would be from Nigeria and Senegal. So
wow.
yeah, bizarre. But I was able to learn, and that's kind of where my introduction to learning what I practice now, which is hoodoo, became about, because I was able to learn from family members, family lines, and connect with the ancestors there. So now today I practice hoodoo, which is
interesting. I want to get
a
into
very
that in a
specific,
second.
a very specific thing. But now that's what I do. So yeah.
I love that you had that deep pull towards it, not even knowing that it was in your blood. Like, isn't that so cool how powerful magic is, that even when your brain is telling you that you have no like connection, your soul is like, absolutely need to go there because we are that's calling us.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had always felt that pull and connection. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then all of a sudden it was there. And me being spontaneous and impulsive, within weeks, I was over there living with people who were my family.
I love that.
And so, yeah, amazing.
And from like a magical like perspective as well, when you look at the history there, like even Hades, there is so much magic around there in whatever form they like, whether it's hoodoo, voodoo, there's like so much going on. And you see how that bleeds into places like New Orleans, and it's just like a whole different world of magic, which I find, I don't know a lot about it, and I do want to learn because I find it so interesting. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I would love to learn more about what hoodoo is, because the only explanation I've ever heard is that it's like witchcraft on the fly, which I was like, that's pretty cool. But obviously there's like a deeper meaning to it. So I would love for you to actually explain like what is hoodoo and how would you differentiate it from like witchcraft?
Okay. So I guess for a lot of people who practice hoodoo, like, I mean, 98% of people who practice hoodoo would be like black, right? Yeah. And so I'll just start with, I guess, separating the two as well, because people, I think there's this misconception that voodoo and hoodoo is the same.
No.
And so voodoo is, for all those that don't know, is like an organized religion. So it's a religion. You can join or be initiated to it if you feel going through certain things, just like you would in Christianity. Like if you were Catholic, you do like your Holy Communion, all that kind of stuff. So voodoo is a religion from Africa, but you can kind of go in there if you want to, but I mean, I guess most white people wouldn't. And hoodoo is specifically a new but very special practice that was created from the slaves themselves when they came to the Caribbean and the southern states of America. So you're talking, like New Orleans, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. So the slaves that were taken there and to the West Indies, the Caribbean, created their own practices. And what they did is they took old elements from voodoo and brought it to do what I guess they would work with whatever they had. So when you're in slave quarters, you have access to like bare minimum, but they were really good with identifying local herbs and using things like alcohol, and then different types of food, things like that. So hoodoo itself has always been very focused on ancestral veneration. So venerating your own ancestors, using spirit communication, divination techniques to connect with your ancestors long past or recently past. So it definitely always revolves around spirits. And I guess the element of choice for hoodoo would be fire, always candles, always burning, things like that. So hoodoo itself, you have to be a little bit more careful of, only because you are connecting to your ancestral spirits. So it's not something that I guess people could just jump in and start
No.
practicing and I guess join, because you have to be able to connect with the spirits that were slaves themselves. So unless you had any ancestors that weren't slaves, it wouldn't probably be something that you'd choose to jump into and practice, because you wouldn't be able to have that connection.
No.
But it's definitely seen, I think, as being quite mysterious and that kind of thing to people, because you see it in a lot of American movies, don't you? Like there's always like for example, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You've got Calypso, right? Calypso, the hoodoo voodoo queen with the dreadlocks, and she's like, yeah. So I mean, you see all these things in like the American kind of stereotype media or mainstream movies about what a hoodoo practitioner would look like. But generally they look like me. So they could look like anything, like right now.
Super magical and beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, I look like a librarian. But yeah, so anyone in practicing hoodoo who have come from those lines could be what's called a root worker, or like a conjure woman or man. And so a lot of people still have this, like definitely the old people, like we're talking grandparents, great grandparents, they still have this bad connotation with the word witch, because for them back in those days when, they didn't really even have their lives for free, that was seen as being the worst thing, which again, for all of us who have come from these backgrounds or have jumped into this as a practice, the word witch used to be like horrifying. You wouldn't go around saying you were a witch. You'd be burned or you'd be hung or whatever. But so they always just say in hoodoo, conjure woman or root worker. So for me, I would call myself, within the hoodoo practice, I would call myself a root worker or a conjure woman, which you can do conjure woman, conjure man, whoever. And you're kind of a person who someone would go to pay for like a service or to get help with something. So in the Caribbean, you would go to a root worker to get help with why your baby's crying, or if you have headaches, or your neighbor's like pissing you off, and their tree's coming over the fence and you want them to go out there and cut it without asking them. And it's like all these like funny, dark kind of mystical things that you can do. But it's very focused on protection and healing as well. So I think a lot of people still think that it's like, they see it in the media, the movies and things like that, and they think, voodoo or hoodoo is like black magic.
It's seen as scary and death, and they're going to hurt you.
Yeah. But the term black magic actually came about in 1678 when they just looked at people who did this type of magic and they were black. So they just penned it down as, oh, this is black magic. So it was actually really to do with the skin color rather than any darkness. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And so for someone who's practicing today, like what would you do on an everyday basis that involves hoodoo magic? Like what's something that, you would just do throughout the day that's not like a big like ritual kind of thing, but just something that you would incorporate into your day?
Yeah, so definitely, like I said earlier, so lighting the spirit candle, so making sure that you constantly have a sort of like a guiding light for the ancestors, because my house is full of people that I'm constantly like talking to. I'm pretty sure if like the courier and the postie comes by, they're like, what's going on in there? They must think there's a whole bunch of people. It's just me. But there's a lot of activity because hoodoo itself is just solely focused on ancestral veneration. So you're constantly talking to your passed over loved ones throughout the day. So you always have a candle lit, and that's just like a guiding beacon for them to come. So you always light the ancestor candle, and you're always putting out like a little offering as well. Like this morning, knowing I was going to jump on and do this podcast with you, I sort of spoke to my uncle on that side. He was like half Jamaican. Crank out the cigars, and so I just put a little cigar down next to the ancestral candle and lit that for a few moments, and then put some of these little tea cakes next to it for him. So whoever I'm trying to communicate with, or that day, I'll put out their favorite things. So that's just part of hoodoo, is just, it's very family orientated, whether they're here or not. So it's
almost like you celebrate Samhain, like a witchy version of Samhain on a daily basis.
Like every day, every single day. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that so much.
I love it.
And so does your whole family, are they still very much like, do you still practice together, or is it just you, or how does it all
So
work now?
yeah, I'm the only hoodoo practitioner in my family at all.
Mm.
And I guess it was something I had to go and learn as well. But my mum and dad, they love hearing about it. They love learning about, what I'm doing next, like who's that for? They're very involved in it because, again, with growing up with the Scottish folk magic and sort of the Swedish folk magic as well, or Swedish elements, you sort of would pay homage to your ancestors or things like that. Again, for Samhain, but my mum and dad, they're very involved with, oh, we're going around to your house, like what's going on here today, things like that. So I think for my mum, she's more involved in learning about like who these people were, because throughout history, if it was just on paper, they would have been forgotten. So
Totally.
what I'm doing is I'm literally venerating them every day by honoring them and continuing what they would have practiced.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm the only one in the family, and it's like, wow, it's seen as a big deal. So
That's
yeah.
really beautiful. And you know what I love? I love that you have like such an extensive background of like the Scottish, the Swedish, and now the like
Yeah.
Caribbean. And it kind
Yeah.
of fits like for my next question as well for you, is that I know you are quite the world traveler. Like you have been
Yes.
everywhere, everywhere.
Yes.
And so how did that, like what did you do that allowed you to travel basically like nearly everywhere?
Yeah, yeah. So I left high school in New Zealand. I was like bullied here, so I just wasn't having a good time.
Yeah.
And I actually jumped over the ditch, came to Australia, did a little bit of traveling around, and worked in tourism a little bit, like
Yeah.
when I was about 19. And I loved it. I loved that side of things. And so then I jumped back over to New Zealand and I did like a journalism degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed here, did university, did a journalism degree, and did like a few like history papers as well. Because again, I was still very fixated on like what was happening, with slavery and things in America and stuff like that. So I just kind of then went back out into the world after finishing my degree. And it was literally by accident that I have stumbled on all these amazing jobs. So I went over to Sweden to visit my sister where she lives. And I was just sitting in a cafe, and there was a guy next to me and he was having like problems with his phone and all that kind of stuff. And I'm really, really lucky. Like I like to think that I'm a really lucky person, or somehow I manifest these amazing things out of
Yeah.
thin air. But I'm sitting there and I just being, the like my love language is like giving or like helping. So I
Yeah.
was just like gonna help him and like ask him if he needed any help with his phone. And we just got to talking small talk. So we're sitting in this Swedish cafe in the middle of Stockholm city. It's snowing outside. And turns out he owns a tourism company who goes up
Cool.
to the top of Sweden, which is in Lapland, and Lapland being,
Stop.
I
That's where
know, I
Santa
know.
lives.
That's where Santa lives. And so he wants to get international guides, but he needs someone who's going to be able to work with the indigenous Sami people. So in Sweden, the indigenous Sami people are, I guess, treated like a lot of indigenous people are around the world.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, not so good.
No.
And they're not acknowledged and things like that a lot. And so he wanted someone to be able to go in and communicate with them and work with them, who was quite empathetic and things like that. And I was like, I'll do it. And he's like, who are you? Who are you for a start? And I was like, told him my background, just finished journalism degree, come from New Zealand where I work and speak, with a lot of like indigenous folk here and things like that. I worked in Australia with Aboriginal people. And my passion is people and that. So he was like, you can start tomorrow. And it was literally by chance. I know,
so cool.
by chance. It was 26 hours on a bus from Stockholm up to the top.
What a beautiful drive.
It was so stunning. It was beautiful. And then when
So
I got
jealous.
up there, I was just in this community of these indigenous reindeer herders who were like in their traditional clothing. And I was like, hi, I'm Amber from New Zealand. And we had a really cool connection from the beginning. And I guess from there, we were able to open up tourism that was sustainable and ethical, where it didn't affect their daily way of life, but that they were able to benefit from as well. So, and it turned out that the company was like National Geographic. So I went straight into not having much experience to working for National Geographic as a field guide for Indigenous groups. And that's taken me everywhere. I've worked in like Vietnam with the Indigenous women. I've worked in America with Native American tribes there. Absolutely everywhere with learning their, their way of life, their medicines, all that kind of stuff, just being there with them. And so I had a whole career just in tourism after that, where I just got to travel all the time.
That makes me feel sick.
And so of course I'm waking up and, the Northern Lights are outside, or
Just stop.
Yeah. But you have to remember that up there, that part of the world, it's like way above the Arctic Circle. So in winter, you don't even have any sunlight. It's dark 24/7. There's no, So I'm popping the vitamin D tablets, so you don't get that like
what a
seasonal
strange
depression.
Experience.
Yeah. It was amazing though. And so I feel like I've been able to live, just this amazing life of just traveling and just seeing everything.
Yeah. And so with that, was there one place or maybe a couple in particular that really spoke to you the most, as in from a spiritual sense? Like, did you find places that just, how like when you go to big cities, they kind of feel a little bit dead because there's it's like money and sadness and whatever. Like we were talking the other day, I was in Hollywood and it's not a nice place. Like it feels yuck. It's just a mixture of like desperation, homelessness, drug abuse, sadness. Like it's just the place feels yuck. But was there somewhere that you went that really just hummed with magic and like natural raw energy?
So many places. Like I feel like wherever I went to, I would almost pick up or be drawn to those little pockets of places anyway. But definitely Cornwall. Like if you've been to Cornwall,
it's top of my list.
So beautiful. Yeah, it's so stunning. So I mean, again, I'm a history buff, so I'll throw a little bit in there. But I mean, Cornwall was originally an island. It wasn't connected to the mainland of England at all.
Yeah.
And the Cornish are so like, what would you say? You'd say like really staunch. Like they're very much like, we're Cornish, we're not English.
Hey everyone, I'm just going to pause today's episode for a moment. I hope you're enjoying it. It sounds super interesting. If you're enjoying this podcast and you're thinking, hey, how could I support this show? Then the best way to do that is to jump over to Patreon and become one of my patrons, where you'll get access to additional content, videos, bonus episodes of Ritual with Amy Harvey, that is me, learning tools to help you on your witchy path, and special discounts to my online store, rosethorncottage.com. Take it away, voiceover guy.
That's right. Simply head to patreon.com/Rosethorn Cottage to get all the goodies and support your favourite podcast in the entire world, Ritual with Amy Harvey. Now, back to the show.
Their own stories and legends about how, the sea and the sky and the forest and all these spirits and stuff like that. But when you go there today, you can still feel that. And you can go to like little tiny villages. They're like little seaside fishermen villages where the men are just singing in a pub like a sea shanty. And I actually talk about it on my podcast. It's beautiful. And you're just transformed back in time to like, where am I, and then you sort of go next door and they're talking about the mermaids that they still believe in today. They're very superstitious. And then there's like a witch museum up the road. And
I know, I want to go there.
Yeah, you would love it. You would love it. And because it's right by the water as well, like for you who loves the sea, it's mermaid vibes everywhere, but they constantly talk about the fae as well. And like the water spirits and like what happens. You would love it. It's so beautiful.
That's why it's top of my list.
Places. It's definitely one of these places that you go to and you can feel like the old kind of magic ways. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so rare, because I feel like if people kind of like catch on to that, like look at Salem, for example. It's like such a touristy place, when maybe back in the day it was like probably terrifying to live there, but the magic would have felt a lot different, where now it's like all the like
Yeah.
witches go there, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
gone. You know, the
But
essence is gone.
yeah, Cornwall's super cool too, though, because when you're there, you sort of like, for me, being, from New Zealand and having a very New Zealand accent, but when you go there, to me, everyone sounded like they were pirates, and it's because of the Cornish
Yes.
accent. But then I was kind of like looking around, like, okay, actually, they are. Like, technically, they are pirates, I guess, because back in the day, when the British were stacking their boats full of people to go out and conquer new lands, they took the one group of people that knew the water the best, and that was the Cornish. They kind of, I guess, stole all the young boys and put them on a boat. So of course, over time, I think they got pissed off and wanted to go home. They were like the original pirates,
I love that.
Yeah.
You've just sold Cornwall to me
Oh,
like 20 times
100%.
more than I already had. I loved it.
That's so cool. So cool.
Was there anywhere else?
Oh my gosh, there is so many places. So Iceland actually is a really cool one. I guess
Another top
again,
5 for
that's
me.
kind of, but it's off the beaten trail, isn't it? When you're kind of talking about world travel, like not a lot of people would have it, I guess, on their list as well. Like it's kind of an out the way place, but there, even today, like you would be walking through the main city of Reykjavik, and if you sit on the stone in the middle of the city and you see the stone, it stands out like, what the hell is that doing there? If you sit on the stone, you will get arrested, because that is an elf house. And so there they still have like the government and the police, military, like, well, not the military, but Iceland's very small, but the police force and the government protect the elves, the trolls, and all these like things within society of like how people are living. So they like coincide. So you've got these amazing stories of, well, the reason why the road goes around like this, for a highway, is because that's where a giant and a troll lives in that mountain. So we're not going to disturb that. We're going to go this way. And it's like, that's just everyday language, everyday talking. That. It's so cool. It's amazing.
They have
and
like so much respect, and like any other country, like, that's stupid. That's a fairy tale. Where there are some places where they're like, dude, I wouldn't mess around with that.
Yeah, they're like, don't fuck with this. Like,
they will kill you.
Elves. The elves protect the city. We don't want to wake the giants. And because Iceland is actually very much like New Zealand, where there's a lot of volcanoes, a lot of geothermal activity. So things are constantly like erupting and shaking, and they're like, it's the giants waking up, like, we shouldn't have dug that tunnel there. And so it's really cool. And every little store you go into in the main street is like you're walking into somewhere where, like, Stevie Nicks must have 25 sisters that look like her, and they all work in these shops in Reykjavik, because every like lady there is like long dresses and like incensing you as you come in. And it's like, oh my gosh, I love this little place.
That's so cool. I love that.
Because I was walking into a store and the lady said to me, oh, no, you can't come in. And I'm like, oh, okay, thinking it's going to close soon. And I'm like, that's fine. She said, a raven just flew over your head. So now you have to walk to the end and you have to touch the elf stone. Then you can come back, because the raven flew above your head. Then you can come in, or else it's bad for business. And I'm like, okay.
Cool. That is so, or I have to go to Iceland as well.
You have to go to Iceland. Yeah.
Now, before we get into the second part of the interview, I will quickly ask. Now, I did ask about the morning routine, but do you have an evening routine or ritual that you like to do?
To be honest, it's probably exactly the same as my morning routine. So I will then distinguish, like blow out the ancestral candle. I will take away any of the food items I've put out for my ancestors and spirits of the house. And then I'll make another cup of tea, because I'm a tea girl. Like, I drink tea like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
What's your night tea that you have?
My night tea at the moment is chamomile and orange blossom.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and I'll put a bit of like New Zealand Manuka honey in there as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said at the beginning, today, if you're listening to this, it is Halloween. So Amber and we both love Halloween. We tag each other in Halloween things. There's the mug to prove it if you're watching this. We love Halloween, and I wanted to do something for it, because if you've listened for a while, you know, I love Halloween. I don't celebrate Beltane on Halloween. That's November 1st. Halloween is left alone. And so I have a whole bunch of Halloween questions for both of us to answer together.
Yay.
Just to get the Halloween vibes going. You probably won't learn anything witchy or magical from these other than Halloween is awesome and you should be in the Halloween spirit today. So
Exactly. Yeah.
these questions are fun and I'm excited to hear your answers. So we're going to start strong. What is your favorite Halloween movie?
Oh my gosh.
I know. I still don't know the answer to this one.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, you have to 100% you have to put like Practical Magic is up there, right?
That's
like,
an obvious one.
Obvious. But you can watch that all year round. So
that's an everyday movie.
Hocus Pocus 1 and 2, classics.
Yep. You liked Hocus Pocus too?
I did. I didn't. I was like, it's really modern, but then I was like, no, it is modern. You know, I did like it.
I loved it. I thought it was good.
Yeah. But I feel like there's one that people always overlook, and it's one that I watched as a kid, and I feel like it's going to be really exciting because they're actually remaking it with like, you know, more modern actresses and stuff. But have you seen the Halloween movie Death Becomes Her?
No, but I know that name.
Yeah, so the original had Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn in it.
Oh, and they die, and then they're like slowly decaying over the movie.
Yeah, and they have to get the Fountain of Youth to stay alive. They're like bloodsuckers, you know what I mean? But they're actually remaking it now. So
cool.
Goldie Hawn's character is going to be played by her daughter, Kate Hudson.
I love them so much.
Oh, so cool. And I think Meryl Streep's character is going to be played by Anne Hathaway. So I'm like, this is going to be awesome. So I'm kind of gearing up to watch that one when it comes out.
I have not thought about that movie since I was a kid. I'm going to have to watch it because I know when I watched it, I really enjoyed it. I just forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
I struggle with this because, again, there's so many, but I would have to say that one of them is Halloween Town.
Oh, okay. So hands down for me as well, because I'm not like
you can't change your answer.
Yeah. I'm so not a blood and guts kind of girl. Like I don't like the gore of stuff, and so I'm not really a horror movie fan at all. But Halloween Town is so cute, and it's so good. Like it's so magical because it's like I guess all ages can watch it. Like I was watching it last year with my daughter. She was, you know, she's 3, and I'm 38. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is still classic.
Yeah, my kids love it. And every time it's on, that's kind of forced by me going, we should watch Halloween Town. I'm like glued to it because like in terms of like effects and stuff, it's like so old school, but it's just you forgive it immediately because it's so cute. And actually when we went away, we were going to go straight from Disneyland to Oregon because that is where Halloween Town is. And we were going to go and see like the giant pumpkin and everything. And then we just changed our minds last minute. But I want to do that one day because it's so cool. I love it.
Did you end up going to like a pumpkin patch on your trip or no?
No, we didn't. We looked for lots of them and none of them like I think because like California and I don't want to like upset Californians here, but like I think the vibe we were going for was very much like New England, Connecticut, fall leaf, that kind of thing. And California just doesn't have it because it's so bloody hot.
It's summer all the time. Yeah.
So we just didn't end up doing it. So I think we'll go again and we'll probably go to the other side of the country and do like an autumn there. But yeah.
Cool.
Next question is, what is your favorite Halloween song?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even know if I can even think of one. Like, I don't know. My daughter really loves the Monster Mash. So
it's a classic.
It's a classic, you know, and you sort of put it on and you put the video on and then like I just feel like that's so cute. But that plays all the time in my house around Halloween. So I'm gonna have to say that's definitely something that's always there. So I'll say Monster Mash because I think that's pretty cool.
That one's definitely a good one. Thriller is a good one.
Oh, Thriller. Yes, now I'm forgetting them all and you're reminding me. Yes.
I tell you what though.
They have to watch the full like 13-minute video to get how great.
Otherwise, don't watch it. Don't even bother.
Don't watch it.
Another good one though is, especially if you're like a 90s, early 2000s kid, Backstreet Boys, Everybody.
Everybody. You've got the
Is it Everybody or
werewolf, the
Backstreet's Back, whatever
mummy.
it's called? And they're
Yeah, Backstreet's Back. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that song.
Same.
It's
So I
just
still love it.
absolutely. They just don't do bands like they used to.
They just don't.
They just don't. Don't even bother making music
I'm
anymore.
I'm all about the 90s nostalgia.
Ah, me too. Okay, what is your favorite way to have pumpkin spice?
Oh my goodness.
It's a hard one.
I don't even know if anyone's really obsessed with it as much as probably like me and you, but like I have the countdown on my phone too, like every year, like when is Starbucks going to release this pumpkin
Yes,
spice latte so I can
too.
go and get it. And then I'm like a decaf person as well, because
Yeah,
if I
me
have
too.
a coffee I'll like have a heart attack, so
Me too.
but this year I've actually brought some pumpkin spice pie mixes, so I've been making up like pumpkin pies at home, and we're eating like pumpkin pie every day.
That's a good one.
Oh, so good. And so yeah, pumpkin spice, I'm gonna say pies, and then your classic like drink,
Yeah.
like hot one. Yeah.
So I had to Google the name of this because I can't remember it at all. But when I was in America, because we have Starbucks here and it's great,
Yeah.
but it doesn't hit like it does in America. Like the one thing Americans do well is they celebrate things extra. Like every holiday is extra. And so the first thing I did when we arrived was like, I am going to Starbucks immediately because it's Halloween time. I know they've got their pumpkin spice out. And they had this one drink, and even Patty had like seen this whole hype about it on TikTok, and he's like, okay, we have to order this. And this is what you have to order. And if you're in America and you haven't had one, you have to immediately go and get this. It's an iced pumpkin cream chai tea latte, 1 pump vanilla, 2 pumps brown sugar. It is the best drink I've ever had in my entire life.
I feel like there's a whole secret menu thing out there, and like people
is.
go crazy for designing stuff.
We just
And
don't
unless
do
you
that
know-
here.
Oh no, they don't even let you do that here. They're like,
No, they'd look at you like, it's not on the board.
Yeah. Oh, yum. I mean, I did create kind of this one here in New Zealand last year, and it was like pumpkin spice latte, iced pumpkin spice latte with oat milk.
Oh, it has to have oat milk, yes.
Oat milk, yeah. So we like that. We like the same drink, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And then it was like with vanilla, cold cream maybe, and then it was caramel, something. Anyway, it was like this pumpkin spice butterscotch. Man, it was good.
Stop. What is the cold cream? Because whatever it is, it's got crack in it. Like it's so good.
Yeah. I think it's like 1,000% more sugar than the human body can take. So yeah, probably.
Because I'm like, how do I make this at home? Like, do I actually want to know? Because it's probably my arteries going, don't do it.
No,
You've got days to live.
Yeah, because if I have too much sugar or caffeine, like I feel it in my heart, you know what I mean?
Oh, me too.
I remember back in the day, because back in the day sort of lived in America for a bit as well, and like again, like you say, 100%, they go all out for everything.
They do.
So even at Christmas time, they're decorating their porches, everything's themed, which I love. And even like the peppermint candy cane, drinks at Christmas time, I felt like I was awake for like 3 days straight.
Yeah,
and I was like,
you probably
what is this? Yeah, it probably was.
You lost like weeks from your life because you're just awake.
I think so.
Do you have a favorite Halloween memory?
It's different now because I'm making memories with my daughter, and it's super fun because we're out trick-or-treating and stuff like that. So we never went trick-or-treating really when we were young because it wasn't a thing in New Zealand. It's only becoming bigger now, I think the same as Australia. But being back in Scotland and being there for Samhain and seeing them light the bonfire and seeing all the turnips, because back in the day they didn't have pumpkins. That was like an American thing. They carved turnips, and you were talking like the most fucking scariest faces you've ever seen.
They were terrifying.
A carved turnip is next level.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
That's the devil in a vegetable.
It's the devil, yeah. But seeing them like hanging as well from balconies, but like never being scared of it, just being like, oh, this is just something my family is gonna celebrate. But seeing the bonfire, like that's so cool to see that
Yeah.
actually be done.
That's beautiful.
And a lot of the women like walk around with like, you have your own little candle through the villages as well. So you're walking around with a little candle and just seeing all the lights. Like I just felt like that was so pretty. Like these are really small places in Scotland. Like again, like there's not the big cities, but
Yeah.
just seeing all the little candle lights in people's windows and stuff. I love that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm the same. Like I loved Halloween as a kid, but back then it wasn't like no one cared. Where now
Yeah.
obviously it's becoming bigger and bigger here. And so I think for me, I remember it would have been it was 20, it must have been 2020. So this is the year where we have been sitting in our houses for months and months and months, just
Yeah.
depressed and
Like
anxious.
what even happened in that year? No one
Nothing.
even knows.
Not a damn thing. But I do know that we were released from our houses literally like the day or two before Halloween. And everyone was very like, are we trick-or-treating? Like, is this a thing? But I think everyone was so desperate for human contact and like a bit of fun. And so the area we were living in, they did Halloween. And so it was also the first year where my kids kind of understood what Halloween was. Like they weren't little babies anymore. They were like little kids. And so they got dressed up and they were so excited, and they were so excited to leave the house as well, because they hadn't been at kinder or daycare or anything. And so they're wandering around, and everyone had done their houses up so well because they wanted something to do. And they're like knocking on the doors, and they like the first time they knocked and they said trick or treat, and someone like came out and they were dressed up and gave them like a chocolate or something, and their faces, they were like, what is this?
I know.
It was like such a cool moment, because you're like, we've just been through so much shit. And then to see this moment where this magical day has just completely changed for the kids and like opened up this whole world. It was like really special.
Yeah. To experience Halloween now with my daughter is so special. Like she gets so into it. She chooses her costume in like, June, like she loves it. And it's just, I guess it's the same with Christmas as well. Like as a parent, you grow up and you have, Christmas is cool. And then you become like a teenager and 20s and 30s. And you're like, then when you become a parent again, like the magic comes back.
So much. And and that's why I think when people go, oh, it's just an American holiday and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it's not. It's so much fun. And it's like, if you get in the spirit of it, it's like not about the stuff like Christmas. It's not about the stuff. It's about like the whole energy that it creates. It's so fun. So fun.
Well, Santa is real. I can say that 100% because I met him on one of my tours.
Stop it.
Yeah, in a place just outside of Korvala, which is northern Finland, and you can go to Santa's grotto. They have like the reindeer parked outside with the sleighs, and I actually took a tour of 80 Australians and Kiwis there, and they're all adults and they all loved it. And we went and met Santa, and we're going through the elves
was
workshop.
He really nice?
It's this whole world. It was so cool. But apparently in Finland, you have to have like this really strict resume if you can be Santa. So you have to be able to speak like 20 languages.
Of course you do, because he would know.
He would, because he knows. And he's got this earpiece in, and so when he's asking me like, hey, where are you from, and I tell him I'm from Mount Maunganui in New Zealand, the little elves are in the background and they channel back to him, and he was like, oh yeah, you have a beautiful volcano there. And I'm like,
oh my God,
he knows.
They bring the magic alive.
And it's so magic. It's just like, how could you not love it? It's so magical.
I actually heard that the Santa at Harrods in London is very similar, where before you take your kids, you have to like fill out all these like questionnaires. And so when the kids arrive, Santa just like tells them all about their year and the stuff they've been doing. And so the kids are like, oh my God. And I love that. Like that personal touch, it just brings a child's life to the next level, like as it should. I love
and then
that.
It's like re-sparking our magic as well as adults. Like, why would you not want to live in a world with magic?
I agree. I 100% agree. What are you dressing up as this year for Halloween?
That's a hard one. I've been going back
Mm.
and forth. So last year I was a scarecrow.
Yeah.
I had like a checkered shirt, overalls. I had a straw hat with heaps of straw, and the
Perfect.
makeup was really easy to do.
Yeah.
This year, I don't know. I think I'm going to be like a fortune teller,
Ooh.
you know, with like the third eye and everything, you know.
Yes.
I think I'm going to be that. Yeah. And my daughter is going to be like Wednesday Addams.
Aren't they all?
They all are. Everyone in this neighborhood, and they've all got the same costumes.
I think I wanted to go as a pirate.
Yes.
But the costume that I wanted was going to arrive on November 1st, which is like
No.
really not helpful in any way. So I think I'm going to go as like a spider woman, because I got all these
Yes.
spiders. I'm going to have them like in my hair and just all around me. So I don't know what that
like
is, but it's like the
spider witch or
spider witch.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Perfect.
my daughter's going as a black cat, because she's like
Cool.
all about cats. And then my
Yep.
son, he's going as Mario. Very spooky.
Cool.
And then
Yep.
Poet, my little baby, he's going as pumpkin.
As he would. I wanted to dress my daughter up as a pumpkin when she was a baby, but we were in lockdown too. So
Boo.
we were just inside. But I wanted her to be like this little round
Yeah.
orange jack-o'-lantern
You
pumpkin.
only get one chance to make them a little pumpkin, so I have to grab
I
it.
missed my chance. So I'm going to be living through Poet now.
I'll post you photos.
Yeah.
All right, these ones are fun. These are would you rather. Very
Oh,
deep
okay.
and meaningful ones.
Cool. I love it.
Would you rather be a ghost or a vampire?
Oh, vampires, you live forever. So I'm just not really sure. Ghost, 100%, because I feel like I wouldn't say haunted, but I'd say I have such a cool connection, you know, with spirits here that like I'm going to come back and haunt everyone. Ghost, 100%.
Absolutely. That is like one of my life goals for the next life.
Yeah.
I want to haunt the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
Why not? Like, what's the point of dying?
Yeah. And with a vampire, I feel like they're always so beautiful and put together that's like a lot of like that's a big heavy makeup routine.
It's
and
a
I'm
lot
not
of pressure.
really a lot of pressure.
But the thing is, I kind of like the whole living forever thing, because you can kind of like pick up and make different lives. But I think maybe that would get old after a while. But I'd probably have to say a ghost, because you can just kind of do whatever you want. If you want to haunt today, you can. If you just want to lie and just be dead for a while, you can do that too.
Yeah, a lot less pressure. Yeah.
Would you rather spend the night in a haunted mansion or a scary graveyard?
Haunted mansion.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, if you ever go to Scotland and travel around and go and stay in castles, they are all bloody haunted anyway.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely haunted mansion. I feel like that would be quite cool. Graveyard, that actually probably would creep me out a little bit. So, and then I like hang out with the dead. So no, I'm going to say haunted mansion.
I think I'd say haunted mansion as well. I feel like in a haunted mansion, you probably would have a better idea of who you're dealing with, because there would be history of that person or people around. So you could be like, okay, that's, Mad Agatha. She had her head chopped off or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Don't talk
Auntie
about
Mavis,
that. Whereas scary graveyard, I just imagine like arms like popping out from the dirt and grabbing
like
you, and
like
zombies. And I've seen The Walking Dead. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, no, we don't need to do that.
Would you rather tickle a mummy or pinch a goblin on the bum?
Oh my gosh. These are really hard.
These are hard ones.
I don't think I would fuck around with a goblin, to be honest.
No.
Not after being in Iceland and knowing about like what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So maybe no, because then it would have the tendency to like follow me and come in my home and cause trouble.
For revenge.
Again, like a brownie.
Yeah.
So,
you invaded personal space.
Yeah. Tickle mummy, because you've got like at least a better chance of being able to run a bit, like mummies are generally like we see quite slow. Yeah. So we'll just do that. We'll tickle a mummy.
I think so too, because it's like, it's like a good humored, like we're having fun. Tickle,
Yeah,
tickle.
yeah.
It's not like,
They're not going to come out and kill you.
sexual
Yeah.
assault of pinching a goblin's.
Exactly.
Would you rather sing with a banshee or mix a potion with a mad scientist?
Mix a potion with a mad scientist. I feel like actually when I was
Absolutely.
living in Havana in Cuba anyway, like all of the old aunties were lined up and they were literally like putting things in tubes, and I'm sitting there going, what? And so I kind of feel like my family in Cuba are like that.
Totally.
So yeah, get some alchemy going, you know, like what can you make? What's going to happen?
Who
I
are
love
we
all that kind
bringing
of stuff.
back from the dead today?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
is this potion going to like take wrinkles away or whatever, you know, like what are we going to concoct, you know?
Yeah, it goes without saying, mad scientist for sure.
Yeah.
All right, last one is, would you rather sleep in a coffin or live in a giant pumpkin?
Live in a giant pumpkin, of course. I feel like I have visions of like, you know, the Hobbit houses in the Shire?
Yes.
Like, but a pumpkin.
Yep. The curtains would be
No
super
brainer.
cute, like tartan, like brown and yellow and orange, like tartan curtains.
Living in a giant pumpkin, I can already see the aesthetic. I'm already
Totally.
obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm there too. We can live next door to each other.
Oh, perfect.
Like Pumpkin Lane or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be great.
So cute. Yeah.
Now, finally, I have for you my 5 fire round questions. So these are just like the getting to know you really quickly, deep and meaningful ones, non-Halloween related.
Sure.
What is a movie you could watch 1,000 times and never get sick of?
I mean, it's so not really witchy related, but like Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, but like Mamma Mia 1 and 2, easy.
You either love them or hate them. There's no in between.
Yeah.
Perfect. What is a book that changed your life?
The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I think I read that when I was about 15.
Yep.
And just the messages in there are beautiful. I think it definitely put something in my brain too about like how traveling and like finding out about different people, cultures, places, and learning experiences as well. So The Alchemist is a really profound book for me. It's kind of how my life ended up anyway. And so yeah, I love that book.
I love it. If you could be any animal for a day, what would you be?
Like something in the sea, something in the ocean. So whether that's like something big that's not going to get eaten, like a shark, a whale, or something like that, because I would love to be able to know like what's down there.
Yeah.
So for curiosity's sake, it would be like a whale or something, just for the day.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this one. If you could travel anywhere right now, where would you go?
Scotland.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I feel like that's my heart's home.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of like homes around the world and places I've lived and stuff like that, and definitely as well like Cuba, where I know my family members are from. I've got family in Sweden, but Scotland, when I went there, I actually felt this physical shift in my body. It was like, oh, I've come home. So if I could go anywhere right now, I'd just go to Scotland straight away. And if I'm time traveling, you know, if I could be transported back there or transported there in any way, I could just go and see Jamie Fraser. So I'm going back to Scotland.
Don't even start.
Oh.
Get me to those stones immediately.
Oh my goodness, same.
All right, last question. What is your perfect day?
Perfect day is like waking up, lighting the ancestor candle, having like a bit of time to kind of reflect, say thank you to everyone in the house, go around and pay homage to the spirits, have a beautiful cup of tea. A cool day with my daughter would be making pancakes, doing some baking, things like that. And I'm really dedicated to my garden at the moment. It's been like that for a few years now. And so just having me and my daughter, because it is just me and my daughter, I'm a solo parent. So having her out in the garden and like picking all of our beautiful own, you know, fresh fruit and vegetables, and just cooking. Like for me, cooking is another love language. I love just creating food.
Yep.
So a whole day of just being able to dedicate that to cooking and creating food with my daughter would be like the best day ever.
Oh, that sounds so good. I would like that
Yeah.
day as well. Thank you very much. Well, Amber, thank you so much for being here. If people want to
thank
go
you.
and learn more and connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram under Romy and Wild, and that's Romy with an I and Wild with an E on the end. And also there's the link to my podcast as well on there, Wild. So that's really the only place I am at is on Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It was such a joy to actually like
Oh.
have a proper chat.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a good Halloween as well.
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, I go all out. I've been gearing up for this for like the last week. The front of the house is decorated with like a huge big spider.
Yeah, we're doing that too.
Like, yeah, I love it. So I'm going all out. Can't wait. Best night of the year. My favorite.
Absolutely.
So I'll be thinking of you on Halloween as well.
Me too. What movie are you watching on
Yeah.
Halloween?
We're just going to go with Wednesday, which is on Netflix, because I've really liked watching that actually. So we're just going to chuck a couple of episodes of that on.
Is it like 7-year-old friendly?
No, it's actually
Okay, good.
not.
That's fun.
That's when the kids have gone to bed. But I feel like you would love it. Like it's really cool. It's like dark humor.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, no, for my daughter, we'll do Halloween Town for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Amber, and everyone go over and
thank you.
tell Amber how amazing she is. And I will speak to you very soon.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.